The towel dropped from my hands, but I didn't flinch. Her laugh, a dry, hollow chuckle that bounced off the laundry room tiles, hung in the air like mildew. "You're lucky I even let you touch me." That's what she said. Like I was some leper who'd won a raffle. Like decades of providing, fixing, covering her mistakes, and paying off her credit card messes were just some pathetic tribute she tolerated out of politeness. She turned, humming, tossing her blouse into the dryer like nothing had happened. I just watched her. Not angry, not even sad. Something quieter, sharper. I folded the last t-shirt, that old one from the state fair we went to, before her veneers, before her Pilates instructor with the stupid name, before she stopped asking how my day was. I folded it with more care than I'd handled her in months. Then I placed it neatly on the stack and walked out. In the hallway, her phone buzzed. A giggle. Another message. Another little compliment from whoever she thought was her escape hatch. Her voice changed when she texted lately. Eerier, like she was suddenly 20 again. I used to like that sound. Now it just reminded me how good liars always enjoy the setup. I passed the hall mirror and looked at myself. Wrinkled, maybe slower than I was at 40. Sure, but I built machines that could carve titanium to half a human hair's width. I ran a team of 20 men who didn't dare miss a measurement. I wasn't some slob hoping for scraps of affection. But in this house, I was a placeholder. And placeholders don't argue. We execute. Downstairs, in the office, I opened the drawer. Inside was the oak box I carved myself after retiring. It was supposed to hold cufflinks. Instead, it held clarity. Empty, for now. Not for long. The laptop hummed to life. No rush, no drama. Just a man doing what he always did, cataloging, protecting, cleaning up someone else's mess. First came the emails, printouts from her realtor friend, fun weekends that lined up suspiciously well with her so-called training retreats. Then the texts. I'd synced her phone to the family iPad months ago. She never noticed. "Can't wait to see you outside the sheets for once, LOL." His reply? A shirtless bathroom selfie. I knew the hotel wallpaper. The birthstone again. I saved everything to a flash drive labeled June Justice. Encrypted, backed up 3 times. Because slowness isn't weakness. It's precision. And tonight, precision was the only thing keeping me from burning the whole house down. She picked the place. One of those dimly lit restaurants where the cheapest bottle of wine could pay a utility bill. Said she wanted to talk. I thought maybe she'd noticed me pulling away. Maybe she wanted to fix things. Turns out, I was the entertainment. He was already there when I arrived. Tall, fitted shirt, smirk so polished you'd think it was trademarked. His name was Chase. I'd heard it before, her colleague. The mentor, the man who just gets her. She introduced us like we were long-lost friends. I sat, smiled, clenched my fists under the table. Then Chase leaned in, eyes locked on mine. "I'll make this simple," he said, all smooth confidence. "Leave quietly, or face me like a man." She didn't flinch. She smiled. I swear the whole room went silent except for the blood pounding in my ears. He thought I'd crawl. I leaned forward, smiled back, and said, "You want your teeth whole, or in pieces?" The table went over before anyone could answer. Glass shattered. Wine spilled down her white dress like a warning she wouldn't understand. Chase hit the floor, gasping for breath, his alpha routine leaking out on the marble. Security dragged me out into the cold. She stayed behind with him. And that was all I needed to know. When I got home, I searched. Not because I suspected anymore. I knew. I wanted proof. Her tablet wasn't locked. Inside were photos. Her, barely dressed, in hotel rooms I'd never seen. Videos. Voice messages where she called him my little secret and giggled like a schoolgirl. She even told him once. He still thinks we're going through a rough patch. Poor baby. That night, I didn't rage. I started planning. Because her game had an end date. And I was going to choose IT started small. One of her favorite wine glasses, gone. Her gold bracelet, the one she borrowed from her mother and never gave back, missing from the vanity. A charger here, a silk scarf there. She didn't notice right away. Why would she? She had Chase to keep her distracted, and whatever fantasy she was building in her head about how she'd transition out of our marriage gracefully. Meanwhile, I was moving my life out of the house in pieces. Every night, I'd take something from the office, important documents, backup drives, that oak box with the growing stack of evidence inside, and deliver it to a storage unit 2 towns over. No one knew it existed. Not her. Not Chase. I even took the title to the house. She'd left it in a desk drawer under expired passports, thinking it was safe because she didn't know how to read a deed. 2 weeks in, she finally noticed something. "Have you seen my red heels?" she asked over breakfast, sipping her coffee like a queen holding court. I didn't even look up from the paper. "Which pair?" She sighed. "The Louboutins. Chase loves those." "Can't help you," I said, turning the page. In reality, they were in the trunk of my car, right next to the $1,200 handbag she thought she'd left at the spa. Both were headed for a pawn shop by Friday. But it wasn't about the money. It was about control. Piece by piece, I was reclaiming it. The more she noticed things missing, the more she questioned herself. Maybe she'd misplaced them. Maybe she left them at a hotel. I never contradicted her. I just let the doubt grow roots. By the end of the month, my plan was almost ready. All I needed was for her to make one more mistake. One more smug move that made her feel untouchable. She delivered it that Friday night. She called it a networking event, which was her way of saying free wine for her friends and Chase's chance to peacock in my house. The invite list was a who's who of people who'd pretended to like me for years. Neighbors, her Pilates crowd, a few old colleagues of mine who now smiled at her more than they did at me. She didn't even bother asking me if I'd be there. It was our house, but I was already invisible in her mind. I told her I had a late meeting. Truth was, I parked a block away and watched from the shadows as cars lined the street. Through the window, I saw her, hair perfect, dressed tight, wearing that smug smile like a trophy. Chase was there too, looking like he'd stepped out of a cologne ad, shaking hands and laughing too loud. Funny thing about parties, you can tell a lot about a person by the way they host. She was draped over him, topping off his drink before her own, laughing at every story he told. Not once did she glance toward the door to see if her husband had shown up. That was fine. Better, actually. At 8:17 p.m., I walked right up to the house. The music was loud enough to cover the click of the lock as I let myself in through the side door. No one noticed me slip upstairs. Her jewelry box was right where she'd left it. I didn't take everything, just the pieces I knew she loved most. The gold necklace from her grandmother, the diamond studs she wore on special dates with Chase, and the watch she bragged about getting at half price even though I'd paid full. From the nightstand, I took her tablet, the same one that had gifted me those lovely hotel selfies. Into my bag went a few personal letters she'd saved from Chase, his handwriting looping like he thought he was writing poetry. Then, the piece de resistance, the envelope in my desk labeled property. Inside were copies of the prenuptial agreement she'd conveniently forgotten existed. She'd always assumed she'd get the house if things went south. She didn't know that 3 years ago, I'd had the deed moved into my name only, citing business liability protection. My lawyer had smiled when we did it. I was smiling now. I slipped back downstairs, through the kitchen, where I found the one thing I didn't plan on, her phone. She'd left it charging on the counter, unlocked. Chase's name was right at the top of her messages. Couldn't resist. I opened it. There it was. "Chase, can't wait to finally have this place to ourselves. She'll be gone soon enough." She, me, her. "I'll get him to sign the listing papers next month. Then we can sell, and I'll transfer the money through a trust. He's too slow to catch it." I laughed out loud. A couple guests in the living room turned their heads. I didn't care. I typed a reply as her. Me, as her change of plans. "He's already on to us. Might be time to cut losses." Then I deleted our whole conversation thread. Let them wonder what happened to it in the morning. Before I left, I made one last stop, her precious wine rack. She'd stocked it with overpriced bottles for the right occasions. I took the best 3, not to drink, just to remind myself they were mine to take. I was out the side door in under 10 minutes. From my car, I watched as she floated from guest to guest, none the wiser. Chase's hand found the small of her back like he owned it. She leaned into him, completely unaware that upstairs, her world was already coming apart at the seams. That night, I dropped everything at my storage unit. The necklace, the watch, the letters, they went into a fireproof box next to the oak one with the printed emails and screenshots. The wine went into the corner. The prenup copies went into my lawyer's envelope. By midnight, I was sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee and listening to the silence. I didn't feel like a man in crisis. I felt like a man setting a trap. She came home at 1:43 a.m. I know because I heard her heels click down the hallway, slower than usual, wine and arrogance in her step. She didn't say a word as she passed the kitchen. She probably assumed I was asleep. In the morning, she was in an unusually good mood. Made herself a smoothie, hummed some old pop song, scrolled her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. I waited for it, the moment she noticed. It came at 9:07. "Logan, have you seen my necklace?" "Which one?" I asked without looking up from my coffee. "The gold one. From my grandmother. It's not in the box." I shrugged. "Maybe you left it at the spa." Her eyes narrowed. She opened her mouth to say something. Then her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, frowned. Probably Chase wondering why his sweet-nothing texts were missing. She didn't ask about the watch or the earrings. She wouldn't. Not yet. She'd convince herself she'd misplaced them. People like her never imagined someone could be 10 steps ahead without making a sound. Over the next few days, she got twitchier, stayed on her phone more, left the room to take calls, asked me oddly specific questions about where I was in the evenings. I gave her nothing but vague answers and a pleasant smile. On Thursday, she brought up the idea of maybe selling the house. Said the market was hot, we could make a profit, downsize, start fresh. I nodded, told her I'd think about it. Inside, I was already picturing her face when she realized she couldn't sell a house she didn't own. That night, I sent my lawyer everything. The prenup, the proof of her affair, the text messages about selling the house, the hotel receipts. I told him to prepare the papers, but hold off serving them. I wanted to see her sweat first. All she needed was a little push, and I knew exactly how to give it to her. The next networking event would be her last. She must have thought the first one was a hit, because 3 weeks later she announced another networking soiree. Same formula: wine, catered finger food, a guest list stacked with people who'd cheer for her and clap for Chase. She floated the idea over breakfast, stirring her yogurt like she was discussing the weather. "It'll be bigger than last time," she said. "I've invited some investors Chase knows. Could be good for both of us." Both of us. Her version of both meant me doing the work, her taking the credit. I told her it sounded great. I even offered to handle the invites for my side of the guest list. She smiled, thinking I was finally playing along. What she didn't know was that my list included exactly 3 people: my lawyer, a private investigator who'd been on her trail for months, and a local reporter who specialized in business scandals. The plan was simple. She'd think she was hosting a party, but I'd be hosting an unveiling. The setup: I spent the next week making subtle preparations. I had the PI compile the cleanest, most damning evidence into a tidy presentation: photos, receipts, bank transfers, text threads. I kept it all on a slim flash drive disguised as a cheap keychain. On Friday afternoon, I told her I'd be out of the house until the evening to give her space to set up. In reality, I was at a print shop 2 towns over, picking up something special: a banner. Big, bold letters across a white background. "Congratulations, Vanessa and Chase. May your new life be as honest as your business deals." It was rolled up and hidden in my trunk, next to a portable projector I'd rented. The night. By 7 p.m., the place was buzzing. I stayed upstairs in the office, watching from the hallway as people arrived. She was in full hostess mode. Cheek kissing, glass refilling, laughing a little too loud at every joke. Chase arrived fashionably late, wearing that smirk like it was part of his suit. I waited until the living room was full. At 8:05 sharp, I stepped down the staircase. The music was loud, but I timed it so the playlist hit a lull. My shoes hit the hardwood and her head turned, eyes narrowing just slightly. "Logan," she said with that tight smile she used when she wanted me to vanish. "I didn't think you'd join us." "Oh, I wouldn't miss it," I replied, smiling. "Actually, I have something for everyone." The room shifted. People turned to look at me, curious. I walked to the middle of the living room and set down my small bag. Out came the projector, the HDMI cable, and my laptop. "Thought I'd share a little highlight reel," I said, connecting the cords. Vanessa laughed nervously. "Logan, what are you doing?" "You'll see," I said. The first slide appeared on the wall. A photo of her and Chase at the Burstone Hotel, time-stamped on a weekend she'd told me she was at a real estate training. The next slide, matching receipts, showing room service for 2. Then screenshots of text messages. Her, "Can't wait to see you outside the sheets for once LOL. Chase, maybe we'll skip the sheets altogether." The room went dead silent except for the faint hum of the projector. I clicked to the next slide, her bank statement, showing a transfer from our joint account to an account in Chase's name. Another slide, an email from her to a broker talking about selling the house before he catches on. A murmur ran through the crowd. Chase's smile had evaporated. Vanessa's face was frozen in a mask of horror, but her eyes were darting, calculating. "Logan, turn that off right now," she hissed. "Why?" I said. "It's just networking. You wanted transparency, didn't you?" I hit the remote. The next slide was a photo from my PI, Vanessa and Chase, mid-kiss, in our driveway, her hands in his hair like she'd been starving for him. The timestamp? The exact date I'd been in Chicago for a work trip. A few people gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I let the final slide sit there. A copy of our prenup with her signature at the bottom, and the clause stating she had no claim to the house, investments, or business assets in the event of infidelity. Then I clicked the projector off. "That concludes the presentation," I said, pocketing the flash drive. "Vanessa, Chase, thanks for coming." "Really?" The banner. Before she could speak, I walked to the front door, opened it, and waved. Two men from the print shop walked in, carrying the banner. They rolled it out across the living room wall. Her name, his name, and that message in big, black letters stared down at the crowd. "Congratulations, Vanessa and Chase. May your new life be as honest as your business deals." The room erupted, not in applause, but in that awkward shuffle people make when they've just seen a car crash. Some slipped out quietly. Others stayed rooted, pretending to check their phones. Vanessa's voice finally cracked through. "You're pathetic," she spat, her cheeks flaming. "Maybe," I said, "but I'm also done." I turned to Chase. "Good luck, man. She's great at starting things. Not so much at keeping them." The fallout. I walked out the door to my car, leaving her to clean up the mess. From the driver's seat, I watched through the window as the guests began to scatter. Chase was already arguing with her, his hands slicing the air, her jaw tight and her eyes wild. My phone buzzed. It was my lawyer. "Papers are ready. Want me to have them served tonight?" I thought about it. Then I looked back at the house, at the chaos swirling inside, and smiled. "No," I said. "Let her think about this for a few days. Let it marinate." Because the truth was, this wasn't my revenge. Not yet. This was just the trailer. The feature presentation was still coming. 3 days. That's how long I let her stew after the party. In that time, she called me 14 times, texted me twice as much, and even sent a few emails with subject lines like, "We can fix this," and "Be an adult." I didn't reply to a single one. She also made one crucial mistake. She never left the house, which meant she was trapped inside a pressure cooker of her own making, with nothing but her thoughts, the empty space where her jewelry used to be, and the knowledge that everyone who'd been at that party now knew the truth. I wanted her to simmer. People like Vanessa hate silence more than insults. Silence means they're not controlling the narrative. On the fourth morning, I broke the silence, strategically. I sent her a single text. "We need to talk. Be at the house at 6 p.m. She replied in under a minute. "Fine." The meeting. At 6 p.m. sharp, she walked in. No makeup, hair tied back, wearing a hoodie like she was trying to play the sad, misunderstood wife card. I was at the dining table, a stack of folders in front of me, a pen resting neatly on top. She sat down across from me without asking. "Logan, we can't keep doing this. We're making a mess of everything." I held up my hand. "We're not doing anything. You did something. Multiple somethings." Her lips tightened. "I made mistakes, yes, but—" "No," I said, sliding the top folder toward her. "You made choices." She glanced down at the folder. Inside was a printed copy of our prenup, the one I'd shown at the party, but this time highlighted in neon yellow. Every clause about infidelity. Every forfeiture of rights. Every provision for asset division. Her face paled. "You're really going to enforce this?" "Absolutely." She scoffed, leaning back. "You think you're some kind of genius because you caught me? I'll still get something, Logan. Judges hate these things. They'll side with me." I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to make her uncomfortable. "You could try, but you'd have to explain these." I pushed the second folder toward her. Inside were her bank statements, the money transfers to Chase's account, and, my personal favorite, a notarized affidavit from one of the brokers she'd emailed about selling the house behind my back. Her fingers twitched. "Where did you get this?" "Pattern recognition," I said. "You leave fingerprints everywhere." The first blow. I let her stew in that for a moment before I slid the third folder across the table. She hesitated to open it, like she already knew what was inside. She was right. Hotel receipts, time-stamped photos, and a transcript of her messages with Chase, word for word. By now, the hoodie defense was crumbling. She was leaning forward, eyes darting between the evidence and my face, trying to read how far I'd go. Finally, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. What do you want? Simple, I said. You leave. No fight, no claims, no money. You take your personal belongings and whatever dignity you can scrape up, and you walk away. She laughed, but it was thin. And if I don't? Then, I said, leaning in, I send every one of these folders to your investors, your real estate board, and your precious Pilates group chat. I'll make sure that banner from the party is the first thing that comes up when someone Googles your name. I'll burn your reputation so thoroughly you won't be able to rent an apartment without a cosigner. Her face went blank. I could tell she was calculating, whether I was bluffing, whether she could bluff harder. But she'd seen the party. She'd seen the projector. She knew I didn't bluff. The twist. She pushed her chair back, pretending to concede. Fine, I'll leave. But I need time. Not much, I interrupted. Because while you've been hiding here, I've been busy. I slid the last envelope across the table. She opened it and froze. It was a printed screenshot of Chase's dating profile, created 2 days after the party. His bio? Newly single. Looking for something real. Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. I guess transparency really is important to him, I said. He's already shopping for your replacement. Probably wants someone who doesn't come with a public scandal and a house he can't touch. That landed. She went rigid, then slumped back into her chair. The exit. She tried one last jab. You think you're walking away from this clean? You think people won't look at you differently after what you pulled? Maybe, I said, standing. But I'll be walking away, and you'll still be explaining yourself. I left her sitting there, staring at the folders like they were a ticking bomb. Which, in a way, they were. By the next morning, half her closet was empty. By the end of the week, she was gone. No teary goodbye, no screaming match, just absence. And that was fine, because absence is exactly what I wanted from her. The real revenge. But here's the thing. Getting her out was just the opening act. I wasn't done. Not even close. While she was licking her wounds, I started working with my lawyer to finalize the divorce on my terms. At the same time, I contacted a few people I knew in the industry, people who'd been burned by her before but never had proof. I gave them proof. Every shady deal, every forged document, every back-channel scheme she'd ever tried to pull in real estate. It was all neatly packaged, anonymized, and sent through the right channels. I didn't need credit for it. I just needed her career to crumble. And crumble it did. Within 2 months, her license was under review. Chase had blocked her on everything. And from what I heard, she was subletting a studio apartment in a part of town she used to joke about avoiding. The best part, I never saw her again. But I did get a postcard. No return address, just a picture of a beach and the words, "Hope you're happy." I pinned it to the corkboard in my office. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Because here's the truth. Revenge isn't about rage. Rage burns out. Revenge is about precision. Patience. Making sure that when you finally strike, the other person never sees the blade until it's already through. And Vanessa? She never saw a damn thing. 2 months after she was gone, I stopped thinking about her day to day. That's not to say she stopped thinking about me. Every so often, my phone would light up with an unfamiliar number. A hang-up. A voicemail of just breathing. I knew it was her. Chase was long gone. Her network had evaporated, and she had nobody left to call but the man she'd tried to gut. I didn't block her. I wanted her to keep wondering if I might answer one day. Meanwhile, her professional life was rotting from the inside. My anonymous packages to the real estate board had done their job. She wasn't fired. No, they made her wait. Review hearings. Ethics inquiries. Enough to kill a career slowly, without giving her the satisfaction of martyrdom. I'd also been buying. Quietly. Through shell LLCs. I picked up 2 condos she'd once drooled over in her vision board phase. Cash offers, anonymous buyers. I didn't need the properties. I needed the satisfaction of knowing they were mine, and she'd never touched them. Then came the slip. I was at a coffee shop downtown when I heard it, her voice. She was at the next table, whispering to a man about getting back on her feet. She was pitching him on some half-baked, luxury staging business. The kind of scam where you overcharge people for rented furniture and pretend it's design genius. She didn't see me. I left without saying a word. But the man she was talking to, I recognized him. He was a developer I'd worked with years ago, and someone who owed me a favor. 2 days later, I made a call. Her investor meeting was canceled. He told her he'd heard some things about her ethics. She'd never know where the whisper came from. By month 6, she was desperate enough to try reaching out directly. Her, Logan, can we meet? Just to talk. Me, sure. Same restaurant as before. She showed up dressed like she thought we were on a date. I ordered coffee. She tried to apologize, in that way people do when they're actually fishing for sympathy. Said she'd made mistakes. Said she was lonely. I let her talk for 10 minutes, then slid a thin envelope across the table. Inside, copies of the deeds for those 2 condos. A photo of her old gold necklace, now in my safe. A printout of Chase's dating profile, still active. She stared at them, then at me. Why are you doing this? Because, I said, standing, I want you to know you didn't just lose me. You lost everything you thought you'd win. I left her there with the bill. A year to the day after the laundry room comment. You're lucky I even let you touch me. I mailed her one last package. Inside was the oak box, the same one that had been empty when this started. Now it held the flash drive labeled June Justice, the folded prenup copy with her highlighted signature, a single house key, and a note. This key doesn't open anything anymore. Just like you. No return address. No explanation. Just a reminder. From what I heard later, she left town not long after. Changed her name. Tried to start fresh somewhere nobody knew her. That's fine. She can keep running. Because here's the truth. Revenge isn't loud. It's not fast. It's silent, methodical, and patient. And in the end, it's not about watching them burn. It's about making sure, no matter how far they go, they'll always smell the smoke.